You elect Graham Platner as senator, you're going to transform America?
Senator Sanders, what's your response to this New York Times article on Graham Platner?
The American people are sick and tired of the establishment. They want new leaders. That leader is Graham Platner.
Where I draw the line is if there are any credible allegations of abuse or assault or domestic violence.
Okay, so why is he at the rally then? Here to discuss is Steve Robinson, Maine Wire investigative reporter, and Rob Bluey, Daily Signal president, executive director, who is also the former boss of Platner's ex-girlfriend. All right, Steve, let's start with you. So he's trying to brush this off with basically going forward, I think, an asked and answered response. I was asked about that. I've already answered that. Let's move on. And you know the media will generally try to help him move on. But my question to you tonight is, what are the chances that more shoes are about to drop here?
Oh, 100%. I think with an individual like Platner, the first thing you have to understand is he's proven himself to be a pathological liar from the very beginning. The oyster business, totally fake. There's no oyster men in Maine. Everyone who hears that laughs. It's a joke. He's the first oyster man. He's the first person to ever call himself an oyster man or be described that way. There are oyster farms and oyster farmers, but there's no such thing as an oyster man. And if you look at the date that his website for his fake oyster business was created, it was created after Graham for Maine, his Senate website. The entire thing is a campaign prop, and now we also learn from the New York Times that, as we suspected all along, he's also been lying about his tattoo, which he described on numerous occasions as my Totenkopf. He knows exactly what that symbol was, and so he has lied repeatedly over and over and over again. He also lied to the New York Times about how he purchased his home in Sullivan, Maine. He said he had a VA program that helped him buy it, when in fact his lawyer daddy provided it to him with a sweetheart mortgage deal. So he's lied over and over and over again. What reason would we have to believe anything that he says, especially when it comes to the number of hookups that he engaged in using an app that is the predator's paradise? Law enforcement sources that I talked with about the Kick app referred me to investigations just within the last few years in Maine where the Kick app was the tool that sexual predators used to connect with minor victims. So if Graham Platner says that he verified the ages of all of those people, well, prove it, Graham. Prove it.
I don't think the media is ever going to ask a follow-up on that. I mean, not anyone in the traditional, regime media. Rob, Congressman Ro Khanna is hosting this rally tonight. Now, I guess the only speakers are former president of the Maine Senate, Troy Jackson, Matt Dunlap, state auditor. So one would think if the Democrats were absolutely certain about standing behind Platner, there would have been a much bigger showing of support behind him tonight. So where are the heavy hitters?
Yeah, that's a good question, Laura. And to the heart of what Steve was saying, Graham Platner has a huge credibility problem. He just went to Washington, D.C. this week and told Senate Democrats to reassure them that nothing else would come out about him. And then here we are days later learning about these damning allegations from former girlfriends. We don't know what is going to come next. And that's, I think, probably why Democrats are fearful to step on the stage with him. Let's remember that Chuck Schumer wanted Governor Janet Mills in this race specifically because he had concerns about Platner's electability. Susan Collins has proven an election after election that she is very difficult to beat. She was behind in the polls against Sarah Gideon 6 years ago, every single poll, Laura, and she came out with about a 9% win at the end of the day. So I think that the Democrats realize that they have a basket case on their hands with Graham Platner, and they are going to run as far away from him as they can get as long as these allegations are out there about him right now.
Yeah, Steve, so Platner, he says he hasn't heard a word about dropping out, but it is possible, is it not, for this primary to play out, he wins the primary, and then the party could replace him. We've heard a lot of speculation about that. Is that just speculation, or is there some there?
So the way the rules work in Maine, first of all, we are a ranked choice voting state. strongly supported by Democrats, and we have a huge early voting trend. About 30% of Democrats in the state vote early. So he has very likely already secured a large enough margin to win this nomination. Now, he would have to voluntarily terminate his candidacy by July 13th. That's the deadline this year for him to drop out of the race. The party cannot replace him. Even a unanimous vote by the state committee could not remove him from that nomination. He has to voluntarily withdraw. If that does happen, if they can give him a big enough prize or a big enough bribe so that he steps away from the position and does voluntarily withdraw, then it becomes a vote of the state committee. A majority vote of the state committee decides who will replace him. There's been some speculation that outgoing Congressman Jared Golden, who represented the 2nd Congressional District and surprised everybody with a resignation, that he could be the natural person to be nominated by the state committee, but he has said publicly that he doesn't want that nomination. And people close to Graham, people who have known him, tell me that there's not a chance that he voluntarily terminates his candidacy.
Yeah, no,
he is going to be on the ballot in November.
Yeah, he's maniacal. Rob, his ex-girlfriend, as we understand. So Platner says this is all political. It's a vendetta. What can you tell us about her? Is she a kind of a political vendetta type person?
Absolutely not. I mean, first thing you should know about Lyndsey Fifield is that she is a loving wife and mother to 2 girls. She's somebody that I worked with for many years. She was devoted to her job, and I really think it took a tremendous amount of courage. This was not a story that anybody knew, even her closest friends, and certainly not something that she ever disclosed to me or any of her colleagues. And so I think that she just felt not only, Laura, we should back up and remember, the New York Times approached her, and she, I think, at least was initially reluctant, and the Times, as she has now disclosed today, used some maybe deceptive practices to get her to open up, and then didn't really do her justice in the story itself. They spent about 1,000 words before they even documented some of the most serious allegations against Platner. So shoddy journalism on the part of the New York Times in this particular case, but I stand by Lyndsey. I think she's absolutely a credible person, and I think that we, the Maine voters, as Steve has already indicated with some of the other scandals, need to take this in full context about the person that they're about to nominate for the Democratic Party.
It's weird up there. I'm sorry. It's just odd. Okay, there's odd dynamics up there. Steve, Rob, thank you. So